are preparing to do a closing, I want you to consider giving people concrete steps of what they can do once they leave here. This has been very thought-provoking, great conversation, but we want people to leave with something concrete to do.
But let me try to make sure that I do get myself in trouble before I leave. I've been able to say a lot of things that people agree with. Now I want to get controversial. I am deathly afraid that some of us, in our efforts to do the right thing, end up reinforcing things that if we would think about it more deeply, we would recognize that it's not a good thing to do. And so I challenge us to think beneath the logic of race. And I say that because we live in probably one of the most racialized places in the world. And I'm afraid that we have inculcated not only from the right wing a certain kind of racist analysis, but also in our progressive attempts to undo some of the damage done by that analysis, we have accepted its logic and its philosophical underpinnings as a way of seeing the world and approaching things. And I'm saddened by that, because my whole life, having grown up in Little Rock, Arkansas, has been around trying to understand and express the full humanity of everyone. At some points, I veered off of that. I became a Pan-Africanist and an ultra-nationalist and some other things. And I see a lot of people doing it. There's some argument on the internet about who is the prince of Pan-Africanism, which I found one of the stupidest arguments I ever heard in my life. But I want to challenge us to think about a world in which everybody had the capacity to fulfill their full potential as a human, which meant that everyone had access to the earth itself and the past product of the human labor that has been piled up and is right now in the handful of a few people. What if everybody broadly had access to that in such a way as to meet their needs within the communities that they build and elevate the quality of life? My contention is that if I have everything that I need to work within the community that I am a part of, I actually don't care what anybody else thinks about me. All right? I don't care what you call me, because it's large. I'm not going to be listening. I don't answer to that. So I'll assume you're talking to yourself. And so, but we live in a situation where people have become hypersensitive to some things about words and a philosophical understanding of race that is fundamentally messed up and inhuman and inhumane. So that I have sometimes seen us approach it from the standpoint of doing something I call 19th century racism and blackface, where some people have decided that if all we do is just switch the positions, and now rather than being oppressed, we can become the oppressors. So for instance, I don't think that there are nearly enough. I have a fundamental concern about the work of organizations like SURGE even. While it talks about showing up for racial justice, what it doesn't talk about doing effectively enough, and what is absolutely important, is showing up for the people in the Rust Belt and other places who themselves cannot be satisfied by this capitalist system, and yet have been allowed their attention to be directed to things that are not the problem. Immigrants, Muslim terrorists, black people in general. So what I'd love for SURGE to show up for is for helping working class white people realize, racist working class white people to realize that capitalism can't meet their needs. Because quite frankly, I think that that's way more important than trying to convince people who don't have nothing that they're highly privileged because they're white. That is an argument that we don't actually ever win. I don't know why it makes some people feel good to keep making that argument. We don't win that argument, and the result of it is something like what we see, where people say, yeah, this is proof that you want to take even more away from me, and I know I don't have nothing. So all you talk about, all of the privilege I have from my skin, is something that, you know, what are you trying to take even more from me? No, we're going to have to stop you. And so this has allowed it to simply kind of build up the animosity, because we have accepted too much this logic of race. And so I would call upon us as we do our truth seeking to really look at what would it mean if in the world that which is truly sacred, which is human life and the earth itself, is held as sacred. And that which is instrumental, which is all of the rules and all of the tools, and that those things that are instrumental are used to benefit that which is sacred, which is again meeting human needs and elevating the quality of life, rather than us holding as sacred some of the tools or the rules, whether it be capital or markets or any of those things. Those are simply tools that ought to be instrumental for some other need, and when they serve our needs, we should use them. When they don't serve our needs, we should invent some more, because these are human creations that we made, and that which is sacred is human life. So I'm really a couple of things. One, I want some folks to go out here and start talking to some white working class people. And you don't even have to tell them nothing about how they treat black folk. You just need to tell them that the system they live in has been robbing them for days, for years, and quite frankly, has them entirely misdirected with their anger, thinking that the fundamental thing is wrong is black folks are taking something from them, when in fact the folks who are taking something from them are the people who got the most. Right. And they're sitting up in a lot of places exalted. And whether that includes some of us or not doesn't even make any difference to me, because fundamentally, our question is, how do we have that which we need for ourselves and can elevate the quality of life? So that would be the challenge. And the other thing is, go out and find some of these young folk who are surplus population, and I don't care if they live in a trailer or an inner city hovel or a rural neighborhood, but those people who are thrown away by this existing system. And just sit down and talk with them and ask them what they want. What is their liberation dream? What is their liberation narrative? Not another recounting of their oppression narrative where people talk about how bad things is, all stuff they don't. Ask them what they actually want, and then start thinking about how could we together in community help to create that? How can we start working on that now, as opposed to this being some distant dialogue about something that's going to happen way off in the far, far future that no one knows anything about? How do we begin to create opportunities for people right now to be productive and to benefit from their own activity, their own labor, and the things that are around them? Those are the challenges that I would offer to people as we go out, and I'm going to be out there building some liberation zones. I hope y'all help me.
Yes.